Yo, yo, yo. Back with another episode of the Black Superheroes Matter podcast. Today's guest is Alfred Stewart, and he goes by the name Indigo Ink. He is a writer, illustrator combo based in Atlanta, Georgia, and he has a webcomic called Issho Ni. And we talk a lot about just the creative process, what it's like to be a black creator, some AR stuff, and really just what it's like to have a successful webcomic during COVID and all of the stuff that sort of just comes with it. And so it's a great conversation. Be sure to check out his work, Indigo Ink and Issho Ni on Webtoon and Tapas. And let's go ahead and get started with the episode. I wanted to take a break from the episode to let you know that we have some merch that is available. Over at Iltopia Studios, you can find the Black Superheroes Matter art book, which is a collection of illustrations that reimagine your favorite superheroes through the eyes of children of color. We also have a bunch of sticker packs, over 120 different sticker designs of your favorite superheroes. More importantly, we have our Color Me Super coloring book series. Definitely check out the merch at shop.iltopia.com or blacksuperheroesmatter.com. And now, back to the episode. Welcome back to the Black Superheroes Matter podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Christian, and today we have Al Stewart, who also goes by Indigo Ink, and and he has a webcomic on Webtoon called Issho Ni.
Issho Ni.
Yep, and welcome to the podcast. How's
Thanks
everything going with you?
Things are going good. Just moving along. I'm a little behind on a couple episodes, but catching up. Quite a few good TV shows came out recently, so
Yeah,
try to catch up on those. So, but other than that, things are moving along about at the right pace. So yeah.
nice. And so, where are you?
I'm in
Uh,
Atlanta.
okay, good old Atlanta, Chocolate City. I like it. I like it. Yeah, and so, are you from Atlanta?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, like, what is it like? What is the scene out there? Especially like right now, right? Because with conventions and stuff sort of shut down. I know I've talked to
Yeah.
plenty of Black creators that are in Atlanta. It's like, what is it like out there?
It's for the most part I know for people like me, um, it's still pretty chill, but you can kind of feel like the energy of a lot of people wanting to go out and reconnect. And there's a few situations and events that do pop off every now and then. And a lot of people are gathering at a lot of those events and things like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag situation right now. You have a lot of people that are still quite concerned about everything that's going on. And you got other people that aren't really concerned. And then other people that are confused, especially with the vaccine and everything. So some people think they get the vaccine, now I can go out and play again.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy situation right now. I think I still go to work as we spoke before. But yeah, traffic in Atlanta is still not where it used to be, which I'm kind of happy about in a
Right?
way.
Like you don't have
But
to sit in the car for
yeah, but
unnecessary
it's
amounts of time.
yeah, exactly. It's still not great though.
Yeah.
It still locks up every now and then, and yeah, it's still rough. Traffic's always been bad down here though.
Yeah. And I find it like, we're sort of officially like a year into this whole thing. And,
Yeah.
if I think my girlfriend sort of we ended up doing our like year anniversary picture of the quarantine and like what we look like pre-quarantine and then
Oh
what we look
wow.
like, right now. And
Wow.
it's her hair is shorter, my hair is longer. It's but it's like as I started reflecting, because like just 2020 just was crazy in many areas. Like all the things
Yeah.
that we sort of like hoped to do this time last year, I'm just now getting to doing, kind of in
Right.
a way.
Right.
But I also see that like, at least in terms of like the work that I was doing, the stories I was trying to tell, those things are like even more relevant
Yeah.
now because, you know, like because all the stuff that just sort of happened. And I don't know, like it's just like what is your like how do you feel like this past year sort of like affected you creatively?
Um, like you said, the relevance in the story, I think that's one of the things that probably a lot of people considered. I considered it in a direct sense at first because my story actually takes place in Atlanta mostly, um, and I really considered actually involving the pandemic in the story, but I said, nah, I don't feel like changing it that much. So in a direct sense, it did make me kind of think about what I was going to do with my story. But one thing I did do, because generally what I do is I'll produce several episodes in advance, always. And so I'll release them in groupings of five. I'll release like one a week for 5 weeks, and then I'll take like a break, generally. But even for my first season, when the pandemic started, everybody was staying home. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of messed up for everybody. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just keep going every week.
Hmm.
And so I did that. That's one thing that affected me. And it really, I had to hustle with drawing episodes. Yeah.
It's like drawing an episode a week. That's a
Yeah. Basically, I was still ahead, but to maintain that workflow, because generally I'm about 5 to 10 episodes ahead for that first season.
Mm,
But that caught up with me fast in releasing per week. And I was just like, I
yeah,
literally did have to draw like an episode a week and continuously do that. And then that season finished, and my hiatus between seasons became much longer
hmm,
because I had to get back to all the other stuff that I did miss in life, and refocus some of those things, you know. So yeah.
yeah. And so for your work, like what do you do as a like a as an artist? Like, are you sort of a full stack, or are you only doing like, you know, some parts of your finished work?
No, I'm a one man studio. I'm doing the writing, character creation, character design, directing, scripting, everything. Every single piece of it is all me.
Oh, nice. And and so like I'm always curious about because like for me, I sort of got into it as a like as just, you know, as a mode of like an escape essentially
Mm.
because I played football, so like body was hurting, had surgeries, all those different things, and
Oh
so
goodness,
I needed some balance, right?
goodness
And
gracious.
so
Okay.
for me it was just like that was just I got to explore stuff that like I never got to explore and have, you know, this
Okay.
outlet, and so that's how I got into just, you know, writing, illustrating, storytelling, animating, just doing all those things just out of pure curiosity. Uh,
Right.
and then I improved. But like for you, how did you get to the point where like you were writing, illustrating, inking, designing the characters? Like, because those are all full-time jobs in and of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into that?
I honestly think I'm a crap writer. but I've always, I guess it all started with art. My father's an artist, and basically everybody in my family had some type of connection to art, in some kind of way, be it visual, musical, or anything like that, even dramatical for one of my sisters. Not in the formal sense, but you know. But yeah, I've actually been drawing since like the age of 3 or 4 with my
Mm,
father. You know, not good like any other kid, but it's the passion for it that's different with kids. You know, on whether or not they're gonna focus on one thing or move on to the next. And I was the kid that constantly got in trouble in school for drawing, and not paying attention in class every day, although I was paying attention. But yeah, that's kind of where drawing started. My father introduced me to comics and animation and things like that. And in my passion grew for it. I kept doing it. I like just stories in general. My sister's a writer. She's done quite a few books now, which I've helped illustrate some covers for. Um, but yeah, I started with painting murals,
Mm.
painting signs, doing T-shirts, things like that, all around Atlanta with my father for quite some time. And I've always wanted to do a comic, I guess, but it just I never felt good enough, and it was
Mm.
more so mostly story wise. Still today, my biggest passion is character design. I love creating characters and worlds, and writing is secondary for me. Um, and I still think that's like one of my weakest points in this case is actually writing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a you know because I'm out here in Portland, and so like Portland has Dark Horse, Portland has like
Mm,
half of Marvel and DC, Portland
mm,
has Image Comics, this is a this is a really like a big comics hub. But and the thing that I've learned about being out here in Portland is that the the writing is often when you talk to like writer artist combinations, which there's a pretty decent amount of here. I would say
mm,
there's more writers out here than artists. But
mm,
but when you talk to like the writer illustrator combo for like a particular artist, it always seems as if the writing is just an extension of the art in many ways, right? Where typically if you're seeing like a story that comes out with Marvel or DC, you have a writer, and then that writer puts it off to the illustrator, and maybe the illustrator can capture as much of the writing,
mm,
as possible. But it's really down to the illustrator to really tell that story, and so with the artist or with the artist writer combo, it's like there's no barrier between the writer and the artist in that situation. And so I think it creates a more authentic story for a visual medium because it's the true artist's vision. uh, and so for me it's like, yes, as I improve in stories, like things will get better, but at the end of the day, like I don't have to worry about that like miscommunication between the artist and writer,
oh
and
yeah.
not being able to put something in on words and then translate that to pictures because like I'm the one making the words and I'm the one making the pictures.
Mm,
And so I think it just like it's one thing to like sort of be critical of like writing, which I feel like every time I write something on a piece of paper, I'm like, I don't know about this one. Uh, I feel like I could do dialogue, but like plot development and like character development is always like my fault. Like I feel like I need to. Uh, I feel like my characters will ramble on and just like start punching each other, you know, and that's the story right there, So and so I think that's just something as we just uh, learn to illustrate and learn to improve our art technique. I think the same could be said about just like stories and plots and all that as artists, because it I think that's the make or break uh
yeah.
for an audience. It's like, okay, the art could be decent, but if you have a good story, they can care less like what the art looks like.
Oh yeah. Definitely seen some really good stories. That's basically all you can say for some things.
Yeah.
Some of some of the and the thing is it's like what you're saying too. It some of my favorite uh manga even they kind of have that situation where the writer is excellent, but the art is not.
Hmm.
And to be fair, many times the art for anybody that's looking for like a comic or of any type, basically, the art is what pulls you in first in
Yeah.
many cases, because that's the first thing you see. You can't really like just see the plot, immediately, and everything, even if you just read the back of the book. But once you if you can get past the art in many cases, then you'll see in a lot of these, there's a lot of really excellent writers out there. And unfortunately, a lot of them don't have access to great artists, you
Yeah.
know. And that's one of the things, and the same thing vice versa. There's a lot of great artists out there that don't have access to a lot of great writers, or they don't mesh in a way or something like that. But it's always great to see when a great artist and a great writer can be teamed up in that way. Or if you have them in one person, it's amazing.
Yeah. Like
I wish
it's
that was me.
yeah, it's a and it's I think it's always a balance, right? Because
Mhm.
if you're like a writer, it doesn't take you as long, probably doesn't take you as long to write a chapter than it would to illustrate it. And so you could go through three, four, five
Mhm.
iterations while an artist is trying to work on one draft of either the storyboards or all the pages for it. And so
Mhm.
I think it's also that like expectation of time, right? Where
Yeah.
a writer can work with five different artists, but an artist can only work with like one or two writers because it's just so time consuming to visualize what those words are on a page. And often like I just talked to one of my buddies, and I was like, hey, like, good, are you open to like doing a cover or X, Y, and Z? And he's a writer illustrator combo, and he was like, man, I'm taking a break from the art thing because I'm just burned out right now, just trying to write, illustrate, and keep up with this, keep up with just trying to put out the next book,
Yeah.
at the quality that it should be.
Yeah.
And
That's one of the biggest things, quality.
and I think for if your style lends to, that lends to like sort of cranking out stuff a lot faster, then
Yeah.
that works. But if it doesn't, if it's very stylized, it's highly rendered, then like the expectation has to be like, okay, this like 1,000-page story arc, probably should be a couple hundred pages if I want to
Yeah.
get it out in the next 2-3 years. you know?
Right.
It-
Right. I think about that a lot because I know where Issho Ni is going to end, and there's other stories I want to do on the horizon and in between. And so it's hard to plot those out. You know, I had to sit back from my first comic was called Counter Agents. That's the first one that I finished. That one was taking a lot of time, and that one wasn't even supposed to be as long as it was, but it ended up being like 329 pages.
mm, it's
And I
pretty
was like, oh
decent
my
size.
goodness, this is a massive book. But before I got to that last chapter, I started wanting to do Issho Ni. And at first I thought, oh, I could just, work on counter agents on this day and this day and this day, and then I'll work on Issho Ni on this day and this day and this day. And yeah, that failed hard. So it's just like, I'm just gonna have to sit down and finish counter agents. And that's what I did. I shut down every single other idea that I had for any other story. And I just tried to push through counter agents, which I did, wrapped it up, finally got a book printed of it because it was a web comic. It was based on it started as a web comic, and then I printed it out as a book also. Um, that's available on Amazon. Um, but went from that to Issho Ni, and I was like, the thing about counteragents was, like I said, counteragents was never supposed to be. I actually started that in 2009, and I did it so I could get back into drawing digitally because I had
Mm.
took a like a 2 to 3 year break from drawing, period.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so I started drawing again. I started doing counteragents, and the weird thing about counteragents is I had a idea of what it was supposed to be about, but I never sat down and wrote it.
Mm.
I would literally draw an entire page first of just images and then come back and just throw in dialogue.
Dang.
And that's how counteragents was created up until the end. Basically, just a singular idea built in my head with just straight images. I never had any dialogue created until after I was done rendering the pages.
Mm.
And that was weird. It worked, I guess, in
Yeah.
a way. But yeah, never again. Um, so with Issho Ni, I decided to actually write Issho Ni out. And so Issho Ni is probably my first, yeah, it's definitely my first story that I've been scripting out before I actually draw it and illustrate everything. So it's been a learning experience. It's been fun and interesting. It has been tough because I still do want to work on some other projects that I got in the background.
Hmm.
In between this season and the next season, because there will be another season after this one. Do plan on working on this other one shot that I did start in between seasons earlier on the show.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. It's man, it's like what led you to get into, like the webcomic space, really? I know because like I know a lot of people I know many people that were like initially hesitant to like get into like the webcomic space, and they're more likely to do like a Kickstarter, right? Like they'll just
Mm,
try to do a Kickstarter, get their book into stores, probably do like the whole convention circuit, and then they would reluctantly get into like the webcomic space. But um, but now I think it's, because you don't have to print, because webtoon is sort of a thing. There's these sort of, social, there's these social components to webcomics that are available now that weren't, 5, 10 years ago. uh, like what led you to sort of go into this space? Because you mentioned that Counteragent uh, was a webcomic, and then now, um, Issho Ni is a webcomic as well. Um, so like what about webcomics attracted you to the medium of comics, or the type of comics that you're making?
well, when I went on that hiatus, I was in Japan at the time. I was living there for a while, and at that time, like I said, I wasn't doing any art, and then I decided to get back into it. And one of the things that helped me get back into it was actually DeviantArt
Mm,
page. I started doing illustrations and fan art and stuff like that. I had been out of the art industry and art ecosystem for some time, and so seeing what was going on was interesting to me. And I find most of my motivation from seeing other people create. Um, and so DeviantArt was definitely a great place for me to start. And I joined what's the name of the group? Battle Artists.
okay.
And so that was an interesting group. They put you up against another artist on DeviantArt, and you draw the same character from who knows what. And basically, it was just fun. It was a fun little competition and good exercise, good practice. You could look at other people's work, see different techniques and things like that. And so, with that, browsing through DeviantArt, there's a lot of actual comics on DeviantArt, people that post to DeviantArt, post episodes of their comic and stuff like that on DeviantArt. And I started seeing that. I thought that was interesting. And that's when I started looking up more web comics and getting involved with that. And so I said, hey, let me go ahead and just do a comic myself, since it's basically that simple. I can just make a website and put some pages on there and tell people to go look. Plus I was in Japan and my Japanese was nowhere near ready to negotiate printing costs and stuff like that with the book company, and I had no idea about hiring a company in America to print off books and stuff like that, let alone the funds, period. I was just like, yeah, I don't have that income to do all of that stuff. And webcomics is free. I'm not really concerned about making money off of my comics. There's different people with different goals in mind for their storytelling and art creation. And mine is really just pure, I want to tell my story. I want other people to see it. So I'm not really concerned about whether or not it makes a lot of money or, things like that. But with that being said, for me to print books, it does cost money. But for me to post online, that's free. Not to mention the audience is bigger in many cases, and it's easier to reach my audience that way. So that was really the primary factor in me going digital instead of straight printing. And with Counter Agents, I think that was before Kickstarter really got going. As far as being an outlet for comic books, like in 2009, I don't think nobody was using for Kickstarter for comic books and stuff like that.
It was like around like 2012, like 2012, 2013
happened, right?
Yeah.
So, so I wasn't even thinking about crowdfunding of any type, really. I thought about it once, but then I was like, I don't know anybody that's done it. And then a few friends later on, they did it. And I thought it was cool that everything they did, and the ones that succeeded, I thought it was great. The ones that failed, I thought, too bad, but they'll do it again and things like that. But to me, it was just overly complicated for a person that just wants to put a story out.
Yeah.
And so I've never done a Kickstarter. If somebody wants to host a Kickstarter for me or set that stuff up, be my guest. I will be more than happy to reap the benefits off of that, and I will support you as much as I can. But yeah, I'm definitely not. Like I said, with computers and stuff, I just want the computer to do what I wanted to do. And for me, it feels like anytime I get behind the scenes with things like coding or setting up, this account's supposed to go to this account and stuff like that, I end up on the computer looking at numbers and code and stuff for hours, because Murphy steps in and says, hey, no, this X supposed to be an N. And then I'm stuck on it all day. And so, yeah, I tend to avoid stuff like that. I usually get my god brother, he set up my actual website for Issho Ni, or Indigo Inc. Website, which is still up. Doesn't really do anything. It's just like a landing page. But yeah, he set that up. He's the one I go to for that. That's like what he does, and he kills that stuff. So I let him do that. And I'll say, hey, how much to, change this image? And he'll say whatever price, and I'll say, all right, here. That's it.
Oh yeah. It's just funny because I am, like, over the past year, I've been trying to figure out how to incorporate more digital like stuff into like my books, because I like, my way around printing costs is printing my own books. And so I started doing that last year, and so now I am exploring essentially like augmented reality and
Oh,
finding
cool.
ways to incorporate animation. Because for me, I consider myself like an animator.
Okay.
And but the problem is when you go to conventions, you can't sell animation. Like
Right.
it's like you could send somebody a link to like a YouTube video or like an Instagram thing you did, but you
Mhm.
can't like sell animation. You know, it's not physical. You can't touch it. And so with AR, I could incorporate animation into like the books and the pages and like the art. And so when people buy the stuff, they just download the app and they can enjoy the animation
Mm.
with the art that they get. And so after like stumbling into that, I was like, oh snap, you know, like let me see this code stuff. Let me see this stuff. Let me see this. And so it's been this like rabbit hole, like the opposite for me, where like I'm like, I need to learn how to code so I can know how so I can integrate this animation in a way that's like innovative and stuff.
Right.
Because you know, for me, like I think the beauty of animation is that like you could go the 2D route, the 3D route, and all that, and there's a lot to do. Um, and so like being in the AR space, like I got a mocap suit, and so it's like I could do some motion capture and incorporate that into and have a 3D model of my characters,
Yeah.
and then it's a very interesting experience to happen inside a you know inside a book. And so uh and so yeah, like it's literally like the complete
Hey,
opposite of
good to know. I definitely will put you on my list of people to call.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a very interesting space, I think, because um the you know like AR is sort of this buzzword that started, you know, picking up more, you
yeah.
know, speed over the
It's
past year.
becoming hot.
Yeah,
It's not, it's like on the verge. It's like something a lot of people don't want to touch, but then a lot of people are still pushing it.
yeah,
And I think it's just a lot of people are nervous at the fact that they're not exactly sure how
right.
to incorporate it or use it for their benefit in that way.
Yeah.
So because they just don't get it. I don't know. I think it's something that I've actually been disappointed in a lot of the tech companies because I feel like they should have already have done more with it
Yeah.
because I really thought it was about to explode when Sony launched that card game.
Sony launched a card game?
Yeah, they had a card game some time ago, kind of based on like the Magic the Gathering series. And you put the
Oh.
card in front of the camera and a monster would pop up.
Oh yeah,
And
like some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff.
yeah, and you could make the monsters fight and everything like that. And I was like, all right, this thing is about to explode. But it didn't. I know that it's still quite popular and a lot of people still play it, but it hasn't been that hasn't transitioned from the on-screen AR to the virtual AR that's like
Yeah.
right in front of your face that you can do with your cell phone now and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I would have thought it would have transferred over into that already. Like I would be thinking that people were already wearing goggles and stuff like that to actually do it right now. But and
Yeah.
that was almost 3 to 4 years ago, probably more,
Hmm.
probably about 5 years ago when they launched that game.
Yeah, that was
Um,
like the big research, like there's a big boom like around like that first like Bitcoin spike
yeah,
where it was like 2015, 2016, around the time that like Pokemon Go sort of came
yeah,
out. And I think for me, like now that you're mentioning that, like when I got into it, those were where all the tutorials and stuff were, like from like 2015, 2016. And so I was
mm.
like, dang, I missed the wave. You know, like I'm over here in 20 like 19 thinking like, dang, I missed the wave. I
yeah.
need to like, but I remember Masters of the Sun, the graphic novel that Marv and the Black Eyed Peas did. That was an AR graphic novel, and that 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 did exactly what it said it was going to do. but it didn't do well because the app wasn't ready when the book came out.
Mm,
And so the app didn't come out until like, a year and some change after the book came out. And so people bought the book, saw the thing about the AR on Breakfast Club and was like, let me do it. And then they're like, oh, it's not ready yet. And it's like,
yeah,
you could have held off another year for that one,
yeah,
but yeah, I think to that point, it's like my understanding of how the industry is and like how things went last year, and like my involvement in it. One, it's like the industry has been focused on like, like enterprise solutions with AR. So you have to have this $3,000 headset to like do these
right.
different things. And if you have a phone, do some face filters. That's about it. But now we're starting to see um, essentially a shift to more like, consumer friendly things because we all got $1,000 phones at this point, and our $1,000 phones are capable of doing some AR stuff. So then it's like, how do you utilize that to incorporate more stuff? And so it's, we're on the, I would say that like when it comes to like comics and AR, they're I feel like the thing that like will make comics and AR more relevant is all those animators that have comics and like to sort of play with both mediums as visuals and incorporating more motion and sound into the comics without having to look at a video, you know?
Mm,
Like if you're able to incorporate the technology into the book,
mm.
then that's what's going to pop. It's I but who's going to do that? That's like that
And
that's
that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm actually quite disappointed in the industries because
yeah,
of the slow rise to AR. Even VR, they're moving so slow with it because they don't think that it's something that people are ready for, or who knows whatever reason that they may have. But I don't feel like it's something that, especially with AR right now, at this point, like I said, several of the video game companies had been tossing around ideas of
yeah.
AR games and stuff like that, but you barely see them being pushed or anything like that. And at this point where we are now, I feel like there should be hardly any comic books on any shelf that don't have some type of AR element on the cover, at
Yeah,
least.
at least
You
the
know,
cover, right?
yeah,
Like,
I should be able to walk in a store with my cell phone up and see like all types of stuff jumping off of pages.
yeah,
From a distance, I should be able to see that. And I think that would be awesome. I mean, if you got a dragon on your cover, I should be able to see like a little dragon flying around in the front of the comic, calling me forward.
yeah,
So I mean, it's a bit disappointing that we don't see that aspect of it in a way. It being done with web comics, I could see that. I mean, even then, web comics. If your comic is on the web and you have tangible comics, merging those two things together with AR, I think would be awesome.
hmm,
I mean, could you imagine walking into a comic book store, see a comic book right there, hold your phone in front of it, and you can actually scroll through the pages right there, or see a
yeah,
preview comic right there
yeah.
through
See a
your phone
preview
without
or
even,
like a
yeah,
like a
you
promo
don't
or
even have
something.
to, you don't have to touch the book. You just, scroll through some of it right there, or anything like that, or it sends you straight to the link to the to purchase the digital version or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
or if it's just not there, you could just purchase the whole series or whatever.
right.
It's
So it the fact that we're not there yet doesn't make any sense to me. It's a
yeah,
little disappointing.
yeah. It's a and that's one thing that like for me like being in the space. Obviously, we're talking about the tech space. So there ain't no black people in there, right? And so it's like the industry is sort of going this way,
Mhm.
and so is the And as the industry goes that way, they also leave behind, some of those sort of like consumer desires,
Mm.
and they also leave the Black people, right? And so as like, as things get more accessible, right? Like most of the software is made with like two or three pieces of software, and that stuff is available for free as long as you're not making $2 million. And so
Mm.
like it's accessible to a point if you have the right computer. And so for me, I'm like, okay, well, they're doing stuff over there. We got all the skills, we got all the desires, we got all this stuff right here. All you need is some computers and some time. And so then it's like, okay, like what would that look like if and also because like what Diamond is sort of shutting down, Diamond Distributors is shutting down. So like this whole democratization of the comic book industry is sort of happening because of COVID already.
Mm.
Like it just feels like there's an opportunity to sort of make a lot of that stuff a reality, um, even in an experimental sense, right? Like, a couple of people just sort of band together and say like, oh yeah, let's just try this out, and then try to get into some stores just because, a homie got a printer, somebody got the computer, somebody knows how to code, and then you just sort of just put stuff together, and even put it on Kickstarter if you want. Like
Yeah.
it's
I mean, that's I think one issue is too many people are still stuck on tangibility.
yeah,
And fair enough, if you prefer having a tangible copy of something, that's great. I can understand that. But economically and logically speaking, that's not good business.
yeah,
You should be open to more than just printing a book. Because right now, most businesses and most places that are investing money into things, they want right now to everybody.
yeah,
And even consumers want right now, easy to access from everywhere. That's what people want. And that's why a lot of companies do a thing where they, especially now, you don't really get too many DVDs now that don't have a digital copy included.
yeah. Like it's
You notice that it's one of those things because people do want a digital copy of things, and there's a lot of people that prefer tangible items over digital items, and that's fine. But to put yourself in that mindset of just because you prefer tangible means that you're not going to do digital, that's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. That it's
You
a
should still open your mind and your business to digital and capitalize on digital. You can still do because no matter what at this time right now, tangible is just way more expensive than digital.
yeah.
It's
It's
way
more
more
expensive.
expensive to produce than digital. So going digital is even the best practice plan,
Hmm.
right now, just because it's cost effective.
Yeah, and
You
then the
know,
physical and the tangible stuff becomes more of a collector's item
exactly.
rather than sort of a it's more of a novelty.
Hmm.
It's something to enhance the story or the experience overall. you
Right.
know uh Same thing with like a movie theater, right? Like
Hmm.
movie theaters enhance the movie, but we see that like you don't need a movie theater to launch it, like to launch a movie. I literally just saw
Right.
Godzilla versus Kong last night, and I was up to 1 o'clock in the morning watching that and being like, "Damn, this was good." You know, it,
And a lot of people don't want to go to the theater to watch Snyder Cut for four
yeah,
hours.
yeah, ain't no like what like people like that. That's just not a. But they'll sit at home and they'll watch the mess out of that,
Yeah.
and then they'll watch the extras, and then
Yeah.
they might want to stumble into another one right after,
Right.
and so it's just it's a paradigm shift, right? Like
Mhm.
these are things that we're sort of, I think this is what they refer to in terms of like the free market, where
Mhm.
like the market decides like where businesses should go to and what they should spend their time with. And when, companies try to, manipulate the market or try to like corner people into making a choice, they'll make it known that like, no, we're not doing this, and so if like, yeah, it's just really interesting to see like how things have changed in a year. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it shook everything up because it changed the way distribution works. Because once one form of distribution just becomes dangerous,
hmm
then it's how do we shift the way we distribute product and still, you know, charge the same amount, and
yeah.
try to make the same amount of money off of it, and make it a valid reason
hmm
that we can charge the same amount. And that's the big puzzle that a lot of the businesses had, and part of the reason why it's such a big problem right now, just like with Disney charging like 30 something bucks for um
A release of a
Mulan.
movie. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And people were like, what? So I could watch it at home. I mean, to be fair, yeah, Disney is trying to get the full cost of a family going to see Mulan, because most of their movies are family movies. So yeah, if you
hmm
went to the theater with your family, say, three people, it's gonna be like 30 to 40 bucks.
Yeah.
You know, that's cheap. Because a lot of theaters are charging like $20 now to go to the theater for one ticket. So, but yeah, I feel that for a lot of other people too. It's like me, myself, I'm never going to spend that much. I don't have any kids. I'll go to the theater by myself, because
hmm
I want to see what I want to see, So, and then theaters mostly make most of their money off concessions. And that's what they're losing so much money on right now,
Yeah, because ain't
So
nobody buying popcorn.
exactly. This is like Disney. You can't charge for concessions. It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense, So that they're trying to make up for that money that they did make before, after changing distribution to a method that's, since all of this stuff started, has been the cheapest method of distribution.
hmm
You know,
Yep. Your
I mean,
margins are low, so therefore you don't have to charge as much to still have that same profit. You know,
right.
and
And you have to justify it. You have to
yep.
justify charging this inflated price on something that usually, if we still had both major forms of distribution, you wouldn't have to justify it.
hmm
You would automatically take off the shipping costs or something like that if I decided to choose digital, because you had enough customers choosing tangible,
Yeah.
so because they're still printing DVDs, they're
Yep.
still printing all these things, and they're still paying for shelf space in stores that are, in many places, virtually empty.
Yep. hmm
Nobody's going to buy this stuff, so they're still paying for shelf space. And it's like, how do you excuse that? I because honestly, if I was a lot of these companies and I was paying for shelf space, that probably would have been one of the first things to go from my budget.
Yeah.
In the middle of last year, when things started getting real serious, I would have started saying, hey, we're not holding that shelf space in Walmart anymore. We're gonna cut that out. We'll renegotiate, after this thing is done,
Yeah.
stuff like that. We're gonna have to pull out of Best Buy. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's you know, it's yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think, we don't really have, and we don't know how long this stuff's going to last too, right?
Right.
Like all this stuff is just all this stuff is, either a momentary inconvenience, or it's a trend for the rest of our existence, right? Like, because you instantly think about, like, post 9/11, how everything changed when it came to air travel. Like, it's, uh this is sort of that thing, uh except for it's going to have more of a lasting impact, because this mess has been going on for, consistently for like, this is a chronic thing, you
Yeah.
know
It's
like,
funny because it's new industries are taking off during this situation. And
Yeah.
that's one of the funny things. It's like if the pandemic does go away, what's going to happen to those new industries? Because now they're kind of, you know, irrelevant.
Yeah. Right.
Once we can start doing things back to normal, once things get back to normal, then they're not really as needed anymore. They're not going to be these billion-dollar businesses that they were during the pandemic because it
Hmm.
was the pandemic. So it's the same thing, vice versa. It's becoming a norm for people, and people are creating businesses based on this. Now, a lot of things do have staying power, I think. And a lot of things, because like will Amazon right now is making a killing because people are staying home and not going to the grocery store.
Hmm. Yep.
Once we can start going back to the grocery store as normal, Amazon sales will drop.
Yeah.
You
Hmm.
know, things like that are going to continue. Will HBO, will Disney continue to show first day, releases on their
Releases.
apps? You know, it's like, how's that going to change once we go back to normal?
Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, just like how does that change? And so, it's yeah, yeah, it's this is why people go to business school and freaking study anthropology and all these different things, because these are the questions that like people that these experts are sort of looking to address and looking to predict, because these have consequences, they have ramifications, and ultimately, these are things that affect, like these decisions and these responses affect people, and how we're able to just navigate our lives and turn on our computer and just get on through our days. And so it'll be interesting. I'm just really curious, especially for like the convention scene and all that stuff, because right, like as a black creator that has been like trying to get my own stuff out and trying to like garner attention and all those different things, it's like two things that have like helped, and two things that have helped me and like a lot of people trying to sort of get our work out there is conventions and Kickstarter, right? Like, those two things in and of themselves have like created a landscape for like independent creators to be independent, not have to ask for permission to do the stuff. And then obviously like webtoon and like web comics and like Instagram and stuff like that has made it, has sort of built on that. but
Yeah.
uh but a lot of the people that I know, really the just across the industry, regardless if you're a black creator or not, but like across like the comics industry, like if you want to meet new people, get your work out there in like a small amount of time, you just get a good booth and a good location at a good convention, and you can sort of build off of that.
Yeah.
It's because the market, like the market is there, like
Yeah.
the customers are there. You just gotta be there. And so I've seen that, like these digital marketplaces and these digital conventions haven't really been able to like capture that like capture that. And so because the internet is sort of just vast and wide, and so people have options, and so because people have options, they're less likely to just be there when you want them to be. and
Yeah.
uh and so I'm really curious to see like what the convention scene sort of starts to look like. uh
It's tough. I did one convention for the launch of Issho Ni when it first started. I did a Onyx Con, which happens down here. I think it like the week after Dragon Con.
okay.
Um, and so I did Onyx Con. I shared a booth with my sister. She was releasing one or two of her new books, and so it's it's it was a small convention, but it's a different feeling, and I think that's one of the difficult issues that doing a virtual con is gonna have a hard time tackling. Being at a convention as a vendor or as an attendee it's being in that space,
Yeah.
period. Knowing that this is next to you, that is behind you, around that corner is something else. I can grab this piece of swag, and I can go over here and I can see this piece of swag, get that. I could probably, flip through some pages of something. I can actually talk to the person face to face. I can shake their hand. I can sign this. That interaction is completely different through a screen. And that's one thing that technology has been struggling to try to, get a grasp of for the longest, is just the difference between talking to somebody with a piece of glass in between you versus not having that there. And the difference is just that, even talking to, the bank teller with that glass in front of you feels different than talking to the cashier at KFC,
Yeah.
when you don't have a glass. It's more personal at KFC than it is
Yeah.
with the bank teller. You know, just having that piece of glass. Even now with the pandemic, more people have that piece of glass at the grocery store. There's
Hmm.
places where you got a piece of glass in front of them. Yes, it's for protection, but it still feels less personal. No
Yeah.
matter what, it feels like you're talking to somebody that's in prison, or you're the person that's in prison. You know, something, there's a
It is
disconnect.
the eerie feeling. It's very
Yeah,
eerie.
it's a disconnect. And then if you do that digitally, it's different because of the fact that you obviously know that this person is probably miles from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No connection. Maybe even a
Yeah.
different country.
And it's fine. It's good that we can connect that way, but once again, it's like people always will pay more for a more personalized experience.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, is going digital or virtual. How do you make that more personal? And I think that's the great thing about the time, is more companies are focused on making the digital experience more
More
personal
personal.
because of the situation that we're in. So I think that technology is starting to move forward a little bit better,
Yeah.
but I feel like it should be further already.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thing that I found funny is that Skype should not have let Zoom do this to them. Skype, this is all this, if you look back at all the Skype commercials
Hmm.
that we saw in what, 2007,
Hmm.
like, you know, pre 2010s, pre Obama years, right? Like
Yeah,
this is what Skype was made for.
yeah.
And where are they? Like,
Go.
missed opportunity, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's like we were all like, we should have all been at this point where
yeah,
you just say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just hop on a call real quick and see my family or talk to this, do that.
yeah.
Like, like should have been, like, infrastructure should have been there. Like all these things should have been there. And it took a pandemic for us to actually realize stuff that should have happened 10, 15 years ago already, But
Right.
I mean, even in terms of just equity and access, right? Like, the fact that everybody, mostly Black people, don't have, adequate internet access,
Hmm.
to go to for kids to go to school, you know,
Yeah,
like kids have to go to the library and sit on the corner just to log into their class. Like that should, like, infrastructure
that
like
should
that.
not happen. Yeah,
If you could have access on your phone, you should have, like, it's like having a landline at this point, like it's a and so I think it should be
that's
really
the sad.
interesting.
That's like one of the biggest. It's one of the saddest points of it, is at this time, most people, there's still a lot of people in this country that don't have home internet.
Yeah.
They have internet on their phone, but they don't have home internet.
Yeah.
And
Like,
that just doesn't make any sense on a government level, on a foundational level of government. It doesn't make sense that so many people in this country don't have home internet
yeah,
and
it's
have to rely on a cell phone. for connection to the world.
Yeah.
You know, something like, and honestly, you got to blame like the two big companies, you know, that are basically in control of the internet right now. Being able to charge this much money for a necessity
Hmm.
makes no sense. That internet costs more than water.
Yeah. It's like we're not talking about cable television.
Right.
We're talking about basic TV. Like
You just access.
where you get
Yeah.
that antenna from Radio Shack for like $12. You just
Hmm.
put it in the back of the TV so you could just catch some waves, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like it's you know the it's that's 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 the world we live in at this point. It's pretty crazy. Um, but I guess uh, I guess my last question is just like, you know, as a black creator, like what is like the thing that like you start to appreciate as you sort of get your work out there and and sort of see the response of your work being received by, you know, people all over the place, right? Because you have a, you know, Issho Ni is on Webtoon, and
Mm.
it has a pretty decent, you know, reader base, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's so like what does that feel like, you know, uh sort of as you look back and say like, okay, this thing dropped, I'm doing this convention trying to get people to know it, you know,
Yeah.
got 3 people that read it right now, and then
Yeah.
you're sort of at this point now after sort of putting in the work and putting it out there, like, you know, like what is it like, how does that feel?
It feels great, you know, because that's really with with me. That's my main goal. Is just, you know, hoping people enjoy the story that I'm telling. I saw someone post a question a while back in one of these groups I follow on Facebook. They said something about how you do you ever think about what will happen to your art after you die? And yeah, my answer is really no, not anymore. That's the whole goal of my art right now, is just putting it out there, you
Yeah.
know, and it's out there, you know. So if I died, then it's out there, you know, people
Hmm.
see it, you know. I don't really need anything else to happen with it, you know. It's appreciated by, even if it was just appreciated by one or two people, I'd be happy, because you know that was my goal, was that somebody reads it, somebody enjoys it, and they're entertained by it, you know. So it's a fun ride, you know. So I want to I'm gonna keep going, gonna keep doing more. Issho Ni is not gonna be that long, but yeah, there's definitely another season.
Yeah.
And then I'll be
You're not
working
going for
on.
One Piece. You're not going for
No,
One Piece
no,
numbers.
no, no. I love One Piece. That I have a strong history with One Piece. But yeah, I mean, I'll let Oda hold that crown. He can wear that crown with pride. Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna get to chapter 1,000. That's just not
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's not gonna happen anytime, especially not what you showed me. Um, I'm more into shorter stories,
Yeah.
because I want to get to the end, you know. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's definitely been a fun ride.
Nice, nice. Yeah. It's yeah, it's, you know, when you find something that works, it's always a good feeling, you
Mhm.
know, because it feels like that's one less thing that you have to worry about, and you get to focus on things that, you know, you get the feedback, and then you get sort of that more sort of laser focused like direction that you could take your creativity. And
That's what I actually found surprising and I really liked about Webtoon is Webtoon's audience is quite interactive. They
Yeah.
do comment, they do like, they do talk about things. They're there, you know, um, which I found very interesting and quite enjoyable because of the fact that I have tried to put it on another platform and I was just like, nothing's happening here, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like no
It's
responses.
because yeah, and the thing is as a canvas creator on Webtoon, promotion is probably 95% you.
Hmm.
You might get sneak into some of the promotional situations that Webtoon provides, you know, but Webtoon is really focused on their originals, the ones that become featured and so on. And then that's their right, you know, they're paying
Yeah.
those people and things like that. But as a canvas creator, they provide a platform, which is great. Is if I don't have to pay any money to post. Um, I have a place to bring my audience. I have links. I have all these different things. And if you get to a certain level, then you even get ad share.
Hmm.
You know, so it's I think it's a great platform, and I can't really think of too many complaints about it, especially since the update that they did a while back, which lets you schedule posts. I love
Oh,
that.
nice.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Before it was a pain.
Like you
But
got to go
so,
automatically into it, and then you're like, crap,
yeah,
I forgot to press publish. Yeah. I
so,
remember that.
so it was. It's definitely a lot better than that point. Also, but I think it's a good platform. The other platform I use, I like their interface. It was intuitive. They had scheduling already, but it didn't feel at all like you received any support at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Were you trying tapas?
yeah, Tapas
Yeah. Hmm.
and their platform, you know how when you go in, like even on Webtoon and other webcomic sites, including like even like the Marvel Universe one, they'll ask you like what type of genres do you like,
Yeah.
you know, and they'll try to outfit it so they can set up the for you recommendations type stuff and send you comics and webtoons or whatever that are within that realm of what you selected. I did
Hmm.
that for Tapas. I selected like action, some fantasy, and adventure. You know, because I was going through it quickly, and that's generally what I'm into. To this day, I still have not received one recommendation of either of those genres.
Oh, dang.
Any of them. The only recommendations that I've received are all romance,
Yeah. Like
and I didn't
it's
select any of that specifically because I'm just not a romance. If you are, it's great, but that's what it feels like. It feels like Tapas generally only caters to
to like,
romance,
yeah.
and they only push romance forward on anybody that's on the site. And it just didn't make any sense that within a week's time, 1 week on Webtoon, I had maybe 500 views. And this was like launch day. I had like 500 views on Webtoon. On Tapas in 1 week, I had three.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me. It didn't make
It's
sense at all.
for a
But
platform like that.
I'm looking forward to I think Black Sands is coming out with the app.
Hmm.
I'm
Yep.
looking forward to seeing how that one turns out, and it looks awesome. I think Noir Caesar also has one that they're
Yep.
working
Noir
on too
Caesar. What
that I want to see.
Saturday AM is like doing
Okay,
some stuff.
yeah. So they're
Yeah.
all looking really good right now, and I'm really liking what all of them are doing. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they look like when they become like official launch.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I'm excited to see those. If I can post on those too, then yeah, I might do that.
Oh, yeah.
So expand my audience a little bit more, you know, as long as they're not like tapas and and
Yeah.
trying to romance. So,
At least be like an action romance or something. Like
exactly, you know?
just
I don't
like
mind my action having a little bit of romance, but
yeah.
yeah, it's
Like,
not what I'm here for. I mean, if that's what you're there for, Tapas is for you.
yes. Yeah. Well,
But
okay. Yeah, that it's a yeah, these are all yeah, these are all just like those like little nuances as creators that like we just have to sort of find a way to navigate.
yeah,
Just
but Issho Ni season 1 is on Tapas.
yes. Okay. So Issho Ni season one is on Tapas and it's on Webtoon. And cool. And so our yeah, like as we wrap up, like what is where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram primarily. That's usually where I am. That's Indigo Inc. That's NDGOINK. That's my personal Instagram, and then the Issho Ni Instagram is ishoni.webcomic, and that's also on Instagram, as I said. Other than that, you can go to indigoinc.com. That is the landing platform for all my comic work, really. It's not much on the site, just the big advertisement for Issho Ni, really. But yeah, those are the primary locations besides going to Webtoon and looking up Issho Ni.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So definitely be sure to put all the links and everything in the description of the podcast. And yeah, you know, I really appreciate the time, especially on Easter Sunday, and really hope to yeah, just really hope you enjoy the rest of the day. You know, be safe, be healthy, and yeah, just look forward to seeing more work from you.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invite.
And there we have it. That is another episode of the Black Superheroes Matter podcast in the wraps. Again, the purpose of this podcast is for people to get exposed to a variety of different things that Black people are creating in the arts and entertainment industry. The goal is for this podcast to bring light to all those and those creators, because as a community, we have the opportunity to skirt some of the problems that we've seen in this day and age when it comes to expressing Blackness. And so if you love this, definitely check out the more work that we're doing. Go to @BlackSuperheroesMatter, or you can go to blacksuperheroesmatter.com to check out the blog and the write-ups that we do on these guests. And if you're so inclined, feel free to support my work at Illtopia, where we have the Black Superheroes Matter art book, the Black Superheroes Matter sticker packs, and even coloring books, activity guides. And so if you want to check that stuff out, check it out at shop.illtopia.com. It's all Black owned. I might add, they're all handmade products. And they're all made with love for the community that has really given me the opportunity to find my place in this world. And so, again, thank you for another wonderful episode. Thank you for listening. Feel free to follow all the stuff that Black Superheroes Matter is cranking out. And excited to share another wonderful guest with you on next episode. So without further ado, thank you very much.